Las Vegas was once a shimmering mirage in the desert, a city that promised to blind you with its lights, to silence every fear with the siren song of fortune that lured millions from every corner of the globe. But dare to look behind that neon curtain today, and you'll find a rot that has taken hold, a grim reality that is no longer possible to ignore. Hotel towers that once screamed of success with record-breaking occupancy now stand as hollow monuments, their floors hauntingly vacant. Casino halls once deafening with the roar of victory and the chime of 1,000 machines have fallen terrifyingly silent. Even the legendary buffets, once swarmed by crowds desperate for a taste of excess, are now either vanishing or being shut down entirely. This collapse, however, was no accident. It's a slow-motion disaster, meticulously engineered over years, fueled by insatiable corporate greed, a string of catastrophic decisions, and a system designed to bleed visitors dry until they finally had enough. Obscene resort fees, predatory parking charges, the insult of 000 roulette tables, and outrageously priced meals. Every single choice was a calculated demolition of trust. And while casino moguls gambled away billions on narcissistic vanity projects like Formula One and the Sphere, they ignored the one unbreakable truth. Vegas was built on people, and people will only come back if they aren't treated like fools. Now, with a catastrophic drop in visitors, an epidemic of unbooked hotel rooms, a workforce being cast aside, and families fleeing the valley, the city is staring into an abyss from which it may never climb out. Economists are sounding the alarm. What's unfolding here isn't just a Vegas problem. It's a horrifying, cautionary tale for America itself. The question is no longer about saving Las Vegas. The terrifying question is whether it's already far too late. The first fractures in Las Vegas's gilded empire didn't appear in explosive headlines or a sudden dramatic scandal. They emerged silently, insidiously, in the very numbers that once defined the city's untouchable success. By the middle of 2025, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority confessed to a pathetic 19.66 million visitors for the year. This is a staggering freefall from the 42.5 million tourists that once flooded the Strip back in the golden age of 2019. That number isn't just a statistic. It represents the very lifeblood being drained from a city that lives or dies by the whims of tourism. Hotel occupancy, once a guaranteed 90% or higher, now frequently plummets below a disastrous 80%, leaving entire floors of gargantuan mega resorts eerily deserted. Even on so-called peak weekends, when major events should be packing the city to the rafters, the number of available rooms remains alarmingly, criminally high. For a city that bleeds money with every empty bed, this isn't just a red flag. It's a full-blown siren screaming of imminent collapse. And the disease doesn't stop at the hotels. The casino floors, once the thundering heart of Vegas, are losing their pulse. The loyal regulars who once packed the tables and crowded the wheels are now spending less, or worse, staying away for good. The betrayal became undeniable when casinos unleashed the abomination of 000 roulette, grotesquely stacking the odds against the player. It was meant to be a clever, cynical trick to boost revenue. Instead, it ignited a firestorm of outrage. For countless tourists, it was the final damning proof that Vegas had stopped caring about a fair game, and now viewed them as nothing more than marks to be fleeced. Even the buffets, those sacred temples of Vegas indulgence, are being systematically erased. Families once boasted of feasting like royalty for a bargain, their plates piled high at legendary spots like the Bacchanal or the Bellagio buffet. Today, skyrocketing costs and a devastating lack of customers have forced them to either close their doors or slap on price tags so obscene that the average person can only respond with disgust. In an age where travelers demand value, a $50 buffet ticket doesn't feel like luxury. It feels like a slap in the face. The devastating truth is, people are finding somewhere else to go. The global flow of tourism has decisively shifted. Instead of burning their money in the Nevada desert, travelers are flocking to Mexico's all-inclusive havens and Canada's majestic parks. They're choosing the vibrant streets of Japan and the cultural treasures of Europe, destinations that offer honest value, free from the predatory web of hidden fees that has become the Vegas signature. For a shocking number of Americans, even a trip to Florida or Texas now feels more rewarding and infinitely less soul-crushing than gambling on the Strip. This is precisely why this so-called slowdown is not a temporary blip. The numbers are painting a portrait of a terminal decline. Fewer people, staying for less time, and spending far less money. Back in 2019, the average visitor stayed for a healthy 3.4 nights. Now, that number has shriveled to barely 2 nights. Spending has also plummeted as tourists slash their gambling budgets and refuse to pay for overpriced shows. When your entire world is built on the contents of a tourist's wallet, and those wallets start snapping shut this violently, you don't just adjust, you crumble. The warning signs are everywhere, screaming in unison. The vacant rooms, the shuttered buffets, the silent casinos, the fleeting visits, they all point to one horrifying conclusion: a system in a death spiral. But what makes this tragedy a farce is the blatant denial. Casino executives continue to stand before investors peddling the same tired lies that everything will bounce back. But for the workers and small businesses on the ground, the change is a brutal, undeniable reality. The myth of an invincible strip has been shattered. And if Vegas can no longer hold on to its tourists, you have to ask, what happens when a parasite runs out of hosts? The very foundation of the world's entertainment capital is beginning to fracture and collapse. While the early tremors revealed cracks in the system, the true cataclysm was unleashed by the catastrophic decisions of the casino corporations themselves. What was once hailed as the ultimate playground for the common American has been grotesquely twisted into a predatory trap, filled with insidious hidden costs, rigged odds, and billion-dollar gambles that were destined to fail. It all began with the now infamous resort fee. Once upon a time, a guest booking a room at the Bellagio or MGM Grand rightfully expected the price they saw to be the price they would pay. But now, in a shocking bait and switch, travelers are ambushed with an additional $40 to $60 per night, a ransom for amenities they might never even use. This shameless move generated effortless revenue for the hotels, but it ignited a firestorm of fury among guests, who felt utterly betrayed. Social media is now a raging inferno of complaints accusing Vegas of scamming its own loyal customers. The magic of excitement has curdled into bitter resentment, and the bleeding didn't stop there. Next came the parking fees. In a city that once built its reputation on free parking as a gesture of welcome to every visitor, the corporations callously reversed course. Charging $15 to $25 a day might seem trivial to them, but for the budget-conscious traveler, it was yet another stinging slap in the face. Instead of feeling welcomed, guests were made to feel like they were being bled dry at every single turn. Then, the ultimate insult awaited on the casino floor. The introduction of 000 roulette was the breaking point, a moment of pure, unadulterated greed. By brazenly adding another zero to the wheel, the house edge skyrocketed, making a difficult game nearly impossible. For tourists, this wasn't just a mathematical adjustment, it was a damning declaration that Vegas no longer cared about fun, only about how quickly it could empty your pockets. The regulars noticed, and a devastating number of them decided to walk away for good. But perhaps the most staggering miscalculation of all came in the form of billion-dollar vanity projects. Executives, blinded by hubris, funneled unimaginable fortunes into Formula One and the Sphere, arrogantly expecting global spectacle to magically translate into sustainable profits. The Formula One Grand Prix, propped up by a $20 million sponsorship, devolved into a logistical nightmare that strangled the Strip and profoundly alienated the local population. Tourists screamed in protest over ludicrous hotel rates, often exceeding $1,000 per night, only to find themselves trapped in a city-wide gridlock. The event made headlines, but for all the wrong, humiliating reasons. Meanwhile, the Sphere, a breathtaking monument to corporate folly, cost an obscene $2.3 billion to construct. Yes, its exterior is a marvel. Yes, the concerts inside are spectacular. But financially, it has been an unmitigated disaster. Ticket sales and sponsorships are a mere drop in the ocean against its colossal, crushing debt. Instead of a lifeline, it has become a millstone, forcing executives to double down on their predatory tactics elsewhere. The strategy behind these disastrous moves is terrifyingly clear. These corporations chased short-term, predatory revenue at the complete expense of long-term trust. They made a monstrous bet that tourists were an endless, gullible resource who would simply absorb the fees, accept the terrible odds, and keep coming back. For a horrifying moment, that cynical gamble seemed to be working. But now, in 2025, the bill has come due with a vengeance. Visitors have options, and they are choosing to go anywhere but Las Vegas. The irony is agonizing. By desperately trying to wring out a few extra dollars through resort fees, parking charges, and grotesquely overpriced buffets, the casino operators may have permanently annihilated the loyalty of their entire customer base. Middle-class Americans, who were once the very backbone of Vegas tourism, are now declaring that the dream is dead. It's simply not worth the price of admission. The international high roller, meanwhile, are finding far better value and infinitely more respect in Macau, Singapore, and Monaco. The executives wanted to morph Vegas into an exclusive playground for the elite. But in their greed, they forgot the fundamental truth. The Strip was built by everyday Americans who came for affordable, accessible thrills. In their obsessive chase for billionaires, they tragically lost the middle-class families who reliably filled the city every single weekend. And in alienating the locals with traffic chaos and an unbearable cost of living, they mortally wounded the very community that kept Vegas breathing between the mega events. These weren't just mistakes. They were fatal, self-inflicted errors. Choices that accelerated the city's collapse by prioritizing flashy projects while squeezing their customers dry. The corporations didn't just gamble with the future of Vegas. In a stunning display of arrogance, they rigged the entire game against themselves. When the casinos made these catastrophic choices, it wasn't the executives in their ivory towers who suffered first. It was the workers of Las Vegas, the true lifeblood of the city. Behind every glowing neon sign, behind every hypnotic spin of a slot machine, are the thousands of bartenders, dealers, housekeepers, and stagehands whose very survival depends on a steady flow of tourists. And now, their jobs are vanishing into thin air. In 2024 and 2025, grim industry reports confirmed the nightmare. Thousands of workers on the Strip were either laid off or had their hours savagely cut. Some of the biggest corporate giants, like MGM Resorts International and Caesars Entertainment, began quietly and ruthlessly purging their staff, desperate to cut costs as the revenues from their own failed policies dried up. For the workers on the ground, this wasn't some gradual shift. It was a brutal overnight execution. Entire shifts were wiped off the schedule, and part-timers were cast aside, told their phones would remain silent. A union representative laid bare the grim reality, declaring, "The American dream? In Vegas, that dream is dead. This isn't about thriving anymore. For us, it's a desperate fight for survival." The devastation is most acute in the heart of hospitality. Housekeepers who once relied on the predictable generosity of tourists now stare down hallways of desolate, empty rooms, their livelihoods vanishing with every guest that doesn't arrive. At the card tables, dealers watch their income evaporate with every empty seat and every pitifully small bet. While in the restaurants, servers are forced to watch diners pinch every penny, sometimes skipping the drinks, sometimes splitting a single meal. In a city built on the very foundation of gratuities, this collapse of generosity isn't just a setback, it's a death sentence for their paychecks. All while the cost of merely existing in Clark County has become unbearable. Median rent in this supposed paradise skyrocketed by a staggering 30% in just 3 short years. And the sinister specter of foreclosure is rising once more. A sickening echo of the 2008 crash that brought this city to its knees. Families who were promised a stable future are now being forced to flee, packing their lives into boxes and abandoning the valley. For these people, the glittering lights of the Strip are a cruel mockery when they can't even afford to put food on the table. And this crisis rips the mask off a deep, rotten hypocrisy. Casino executives, insulated in their ivory towers, are still pocketing multi-million-dollar bonuses, all while demanding cost-saving measures that gut the paychecks of the very people who scrub their floors and deal their cards. The men and women who pour the drinks are being treated like disposable garbage. But here's the terrifying truth. When they lose hope, the entire fragile ecosystem of Las Vegas shatters. And the damage doesn't stop at the casino doors. Taxi drivers, rideshare operators, street performers, the owners of small family restaurants, and even show producers. They are all caught in the catastrophic fallout, utterly dependent on a flow of tourism that is dried to a trickle. The moment a tourist decides to spend less, that decision sends a shockwave of pain through the city. One cab driver confessed to a local paper, his voice heavy with despair. "I used to count on 5, maybe 6 airport runs a night. Normally, now, I thank my lucky stars if I get 3. This is the brutal truth. A universe away from the glossy lies about a city that never sleeps. The human toll of this manufactured crisis is nothing short of soul-crushing. We're witnessing families being torn apart as parents are forced to chase work in other states, leaving their loved ones behind. Children are being ripped out of their classrooms, their futures stolen because their parents can no longer afford a roof over their heads. Retirees who gave their lives to these casinos are being dragged back into the low-wage grind just to keep from starving. The city that sold itself as a beacon of opportunity is now a machine that manufactures despair for its own citizens. And here is the sickening, twisted irony in all of this. The entire global myth of Las Vegas was built on the backs of its workers. Without the cocktail servers who delivered every drink with a world-class smile, without the dealers who manufactured excitement with every flip of a card, without the performers who poured their souls out on stage night after night, the Strip would be nothing but a cold monument of concrete and gas-filled tubes. And yet now, those very same people are being cast aside as if they are worthless. The result? A city that feels like a hollowed-out corpse, utterly drained of the vibrant human spirit that was once its lifeblood. This is the true catastrophic fallout of the Vegas collapse. It's not about numbers on a spreadsheet or a dip in tourism. It is the systematic annihilation of the very community that breathed life into this city. And make no mistake, once those people are gone for good, there will be nothing left to rebuild. To grasp the terrifying significance of what is unfolding in Las Vegas, you must see it as more than just a city. It is a chilling reflection of America itself, and the image staring back at us is a grotesque warning. For decades, the so-called experts have preached, if you want to see the future of the American economy, look to the Las Vegas Strip. Right now, that strip is screaming a warning, with flashing red lights far brighter than any casino sign. It all begins with consumer spending. When the American middle class feels even a shred of financial security, they descend on Vegas. They throw the dice, they book the hotel rooms, they indulge in the lavish buffets and spectacular shows. But the second they feel the crushing weight of inflation, the terror of layoffs, or the chokehold of high interest rates, Vegas is the very first dream they sacrifice. And that is precisely the nightmare unfolding in 2025. National credit card debt has ballooned past a sickening $1.3 trillion, default rates are surging, and wages are being swallowed whole by relentless price hikes. If a family can't even dream of affording a $300 hotel room in Nevada, how in the hell are they supposed to cover their mortgages, their groceries, and their car payments back home? The answer is they can't. And the Las Vegas real estate market is a terrifying preview of this national disaster. Here in Clark County, the foreclosure signs are multiplying again, a horrifying ghost of the 2008 housing catastrophe. Families who gambled on the pandemic housing boom are now facing financial ruin, losing their homes as interest rates suffocate them. The Strip may put on its glittering facade, but just beyond the glow, entire neighborhoods are decaying, scarred by for sale signs and the dead eyes of boarded up windows. This isn't just a Vegas problem, it's a dress rehearsal for the devastation poised to strike cities across America. And it raises a terrifying question of identity, with Atlantic City standing as a grim cautionary monument to failure. Once hailed as the Vegas of the East Coast, it was left to rot when the tourists vanished and the casinos went dark. Today, Atlantic City is a ghost town, a testament to what happens when the house of cards finally comes crashing down. The chilling question echoes through the streets: is Las Vegas next? The parallels are undeniable. A toxic cocktail of dependency on gambling, ravenous corporate greed, and communities left to rot. This isn't a new story. It's the same catastrophic blueprint, just amplified on a grander, more tragic stage. The fall of Vegas is a sickening reflection of the systematic gutting of the American middle class, a process that accelerated back in the 1990s. Back then, a family could pile into their car from California, Arizona, or Utah, grab an affordable room, and experience a weekend of magic without mortgaging their future. But today, those very same families are now brutally shut out, staring at the galling resort fees, outrageous parking charges, and $50 buffet tickets. Not as prices, but as glaring symbols of an America that has turned its back on its own people. This gut-wrenching betrayal of the Vegas promise is nothing less than the public execution of the American dream itself. And the bleeding doesn't stop at the border. The rise of global competition is a damning indictment of America's fading prestige. Tourists who once saw Vegas as the pinnacle of excitement are now flocking to Cancun, Tokyo, or Barcelona. The international whales who once fueled the high-limit rooms have abandoned the Strip for Macau, where they aren't treated like marks to be fleeced. America's catastrophic failure to protect its own crown jewel of tourism isn't just a stumble. It's a terrifying symptom of a much deeper systemic rot. The nation is hemorrhaging its standing in the global marketplace. The old lie, "what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas," is dead. Now, the contagion spreads. The casino layoffs are a grim harbinger of what's to come for countless other industries. The housing crisis here is a terrifying echo of the instability gripping the entire nation. The ghostly half-empty buffets and desolate hotel corridors are a monument to the death of consumer confidence. Make no mistake, Vegas is simply the most garishly lit stage for a national tragedy unfolding from coast to coast. The symbolism is so blatant, it's almost a cruel joke. The self-proclaimed entertainment capital of the world, a glittering mirage built entirely on illusion and faith, is now crumbling into dust because Americans have lost all faith in their economy, their leaders, and most tragically in their own futures. And once that faith is extinguished, no amount of neon can mask the darkness. This is the terrifying reason Vegas matters. This was never just about one city in the desert. This is a referendum on whether the United States can sustain a system built on a house of cards of endless consumption and crushing debt. If Vegas can collapse, then the entire fraudulent American model sold to the world is likely collapsing right alongside it. Let's be brutally honest. The afflictions plaguing Las Vegas are not some temporary downturn. This is a terminal diagnosis. These are deep systemic failures, a cancer in the city's foundation that no amount of slick advertising or billion-dollar vanity projects can ever hope to cure. The agonizing truth must be faced. For Vegas, the clock has already run out, and it begins with its utterly broken business model. For decades, the Strip's lifeblood was a seductive promise. The feeling that anyone, absolutely anyone, could strike it rich. It was a world of cheap buffets, free parking, and a fighting chance at the tables. Even when the house inevitably won, visitors walked away feeling they got their money's worth. But that era is dead. Today's model is one of pure, shameless exploitation, built on parasitic resort fees and predatory parking charges. Rigged games like 000 roulette, insultingly priced $20 cocktails, and $50 buffets have poisoned the well, transforming a city of dreams into a pit of resentment. And once that sacred trust is shattered, it is gone forever. The second nail in the coffin? The mass exodus of international visitors. Before the world shut down, the lifeblood of the city was Chinese high rollers and European vacationers, along with countless Canadian families who crowded the Strip. Now, in 2025, those same travelers are fleeing to Macau, Singapore, Cancun, or Tokyo. The global stage is a battlefield, and Vegas's once unshakable monopoly on spectacle has been utterly shattered. The world has woken up. Tourists now know they can find the same dazzling experience elsewhere, often for far less money and without the insulting, deceitful fees. The third devastating blow is the complete collapse of domestic loyalty. The American middle class, the very backbone of Vegas tourism for generations, has been unceremoniously priced out. Crushed by record-high credit card debt and suffocated by stagnant wages, the average American family cannot possibly justify burning thousands on a weekend in Vegas. When a family from California or Arizona declares it's no longer worth it, that isn't just a lost sale, it's a death knell. It signals the loss of an entire generation. And once those family traditions die, they are gone forever. The fourth fatal flaw, the city's desperate, unsustainable illusion of luxury. Vegas is desperately trying to rebrand as an exclusive playground for the ultra-rich, with its billion-dollar stadiums, opulent suites, and colossal shows. But it's a dangerous fantasy. The numbers simply don't work. Cities like Dubai and Singapore and Macau already own that market. Vegas cannot possibly out-luxury the rest of the world, not when its own core infrastructure, its housing, its transportation, and the stability of its workforce are actively crumbling. The glittering facade of endless glamour shatters the moment a guest steps outside and witnesses the sprawling homeless encampments festering just blocks from the Strip. Even the so-called rescue plans being floated are a pathetic joke. Pushing for more conventions, building more stadiums, or begging for new entertainment acts completely ignores the terminal disease at the city's core. These are nothing more than flimsy band-aids on a mortal wound. The city's desperate strategy of squeezing every last cent from a dwindling number of visitors isn't a plan, it's a death spiral. It's a desperate gamble, doubling down on a losing hand while praying for a miracle. But in this twisted game, the house is rigged to destroy itself. But the final, most soul-crushing blow is the utter annihilation of its identity. The legend of Vegas wasn't built on gaudy lights or soulless casinos. It was forged on the sacred promise that here, the common person could live out a fantasy. That promise has been systematically executed by corporate avarice. You can throw up more glass towers, tack on more cheap rides, or book more washed-up concerts. But you can never resurrect trust once it has been murdered. And trust was the only currency that ever truly mattered here. That's the grim reality that economists, discarded workers, and even the most loyal visitors now whisper in the shadows. The collapse isn't a future threat. It is the present reality. The vacant rooms, the fleeting visits, the ghosts of buffets past. The legions of laid-off workers, the exodus of families fleeing a dying city. All of it is irrefutable proof that Vegas isn't just in trouble, it's in a slow, agonizing, unstoppable freefall. When history picks through this wreckage, the question won't be why did Las Vegas fail? It will be a damning indictment. Why did they lie to themselves for so long? In the end, the story of Las Vegas is a harrowing cautionary tale of a dream that festered into a nightmare. For decades, this self-proclaimed entertainment capital peddled a cheap and potent illusion of escape, a brief respite from the harshness of life. But today, the garish neon glow is just a facade, a pathetic attempt to hide the rot. A city built on lies cannot survive the truth. Walk the Las Vegas Strip tonight. You'll still see the monuments to its former glory, the glowing signs of Caesar's Palace, the choreographed water dances at the Bellagio, and that colossal sphere desperately trying to light up a darkening sky. But stand still and listen past the noise. You'll hear the deafening silence of failure. Fewer people, hollowed-out casinos, an army of the unemployed, and families abandoning the valley, priced out of their own lives. Vegas was once a symbol of the American dream, a place where anyone, from anywhere, could taste victory. Now, it is a grotesque warning, a warning about the poison of greed, the catastrophe of short-term thinking, and the inevitable ruin when a system values profit over people. The fall of Las Vegas is not some isolated tragedy in the desert. It is a terrifying omen of what happens when the very foundations of trust and decency are shattered beyond all repair. And if it can happen here, in a city that was once lauded as invincible, it forces us to ask a much darker question. What part of America is next on the chopping block? Why can't anyone stop the collapse of Vegas? Because by the time anyone was willing to admit the city was bleeding out, it was already far too late. So the final question falls to you. Do you believe this city can ever crawl back from the brink? Or are we watching the final, pathetic death rattle of an American icon? Unleash your thoughts in the comments below. And don't you dare forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unflinching dives into the grim truths that America refuses to confront.